Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's visit to Mogadishu on February 27, 2025, marks a pivotal moment in the evolving relationship between Ethiopia and Somalia. This high-profile visit follows a series of diplomatic engagements, including Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud's official visit to Addis Ababa in late 2024, and two meetings between the leaders during the African Union summit last week. These developments signal a concerted effort to mend ties strained by the Ethiopia-Somaliland Memorandum of Understanding and the geopolitical fallout from the Ankara Declaration. However, the implications of this rapprochement extend far beyond bilateral relations, potentially reshaping the dynamics of the Horn of Africa and affecting regional players like Eritrea and Egypt, who have historically exploited the rift between Ethiopia and Somalia for their own benefit. The relationship between Ethiopia and Somalia has been fraught with tension since Ethiopia's controversial Memorandum of Understanding with Somaliland in January 2024. The agreement, which reportedly offered Ethiopia access to the Red Sea in exchange for potential recognition of Somaliland's independence, was perceived by Mogadishu as a direct threat to its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Somalia's strong rejection of the deal, coupled with Turkey's reaffirmation of support for Somalia through the Ankara Declaration, further strained relations and isolated Ethiopia diplomatically. However, the diplomatic landscape began to shift in late 2024 when Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud made an official visit to Addis Ababa. This visit, which followed the Ankara Declaration, was seen as a significant step toward de-escalation. The two leaders discussed a range of issues, including security cooperation, economic ties, and the contentious Somaliland issue. While no major breakthroughs were announced, the visit laid the groundwork for further dialogue. The momentum from President Mohamud's visit continued during last week's African Union summit, where Prime Minister Abiy and President Mohamud met twice on the sidelines. These meetings focused on finalizing a new agreement regarding the role of Ethiopian troops in Somalia, which was signed earlier this week. The agreement clarifies the mandate of Ethiopian soldiers operating under the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia, emphasizing their role in counterterrorism operations and reaffirming respect for Somalia's sovereignty. It also includes provisions for enhanced coordination between Ethiopian forces and the Somali National Army and outlines a timeline for the eventual withdrawal of Ethiopian troops as part of the mission's phased exit strategy. Prime Minister Abiy's visit to Mogadishu on February 27th is the latest in this series of diplomatic engagements. It underscores Ethiopia's commitment to addressing Somalia's concerns and rebuilding trust. The visit also highlights Somalia's willingness to engage with Ethiopia despite lingering grievances over the Somaliland MOU. The rapprochement between Ethiopia and Somalia has significant implications for regional players like Eritrea and Egypt, both of whom have historically exploited the rift between the two nations for their own strategic benefit. Eritrea-Asmara has long viewed Ethiopia's regional ambitions with suspicion, particularly regarding access to the Red Sea. Eritrea's President Isaias Afwerki has capitalized on Ethiopia's isolation following the Somaliland MOU, strengthening ties with Somalia and positioning Eritrea as a key player in the region. However, the warming relations between Ethiopia and Somalia could undermine Eritrea's influence. A united Ethiopia and Somalia would reduce Asmara's ability to play the two nations against each other, potentially forcing Eritrea to recalibrate its regional strategy. Cairo has also benefited from the Ethiopia-Somalia rift, using it to counterbalance Ethiopia's growing influence in the Horn of Africa, particularly in the context of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam dispute. Egypt has cultivated close ties with Somalia, offering military and economic support to bolster its position in the region. The rapprochement between Ethiopia and Somalia could weaken Egypt's leverage, as Mogadishu may be less inclined to align itself with Cairo against Addis Ababa. This could complicate Egypt's efforts to rally regional support in its ongoing dispute with Ethiopia over the dam. The recent diplomatic engagements between Ethiopia and Somalia represent a fragile but strategic effort to rebuild trust and address long-standing grievances. The new agreement on Ethiopian troops in Somalia is a significant step forward, as it addresses Mogadishu's concerns about sovereignty while maintaining a focus on counterterrorism cooperation. The meetings between Prime Minister Abiy and President Mohamud, both during the AU summit and in Mogadishu, demonstrate a shared commitment to dialogue and cooperation. However, the success of this rapprochement will depend on its implementation and the ability of both nations to navigate the complex regional dynamics. The Somaliland issue remains a major sticking point, and the involvement of external actors like Turkey, the UAE, and Egypt could complicate efforts at reconciliation. The warming relations between Ethiopia and Somalia have the potential to reshape the geopolitical landscape of the Horn of Africa. By addressing their differences and working toward common goals, the two nations could reduce the influence of external actors like Eritrea and Egypt, who have historically exploited their rift for strategic gain. However, the path to lasting reconciliation is fraught with challenges. The unresolved Somaliland issue, the presence of external powers, and the need for transparent implementation of agreements all pose significant risks. For now, the diplomatic efforts of Prime Minister Abiy and President Mohamud offer a glimmer of hope for a more stable and cooperative future in the Horn of Africa. The international community will be watching closely as the implications of this rapprochement extend far beyond the borders of Ethiopia and Somalia.